So I would have to go on my Facebook.
We are live. We are live. Yes, your Facebook. See who is over there. So it looks like we are live now. Welcome to Mummy Mondays, the first episode. Yeah, I see that you just waved at me. And we can just like go ahead and share the video too. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So happy Monday.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, Farah. Welcome to the first episode of Mummy Mondays, which is a virtual interviewing series where I will be interviewing a mom every week, every Monday, where we are talking about the journey of their personal story of motherhood, the struggles that we go through as mothers on the motherhood journey. And also, specifically in this episode, me and Farah are going to talk about her platform, Mom Noir, and just some conversations and some things that have been going on in the past month with the racial unrest and kind of how we approach that conversation with our children and like, you know, what's the conversation that we have? How do we talk about it? Because really we need a community to kind of help us out with this, right? Because it's not a job to be done alone. So I'm thankful to have Farah on today, and I'm really excited about the conversation and just how we met. So yeah, a lot of you guys, if you guys have been following Social U Digital, you know that I am in production on a documentary highlighting working moms. And when 2020, I'm looking to release something before 2020 is over. And when quarantine hit with the coronavirus, I just kind of had to find a way to pivot and still talk and keep the mom community going. And so I wanted to begin a virtual space, which is Mummy Mondays. And I'm really excited to get into the conversation. So right now, I'm going to introduce Farah. How are you?
I am doing good. A little exhausted, but I'm doing good.
Exhausted. Well, that's our story as moms, right? Exhausted.
Yeah. Motherhood doesn't stop,
right?
It doesn't stop. You're a mom forever. It does not stop.
Exactly. So why are you so exhausted? What's going on?
Oh my goodness. So I had a house full of 4 little angels, including my own within the 4 little angels. Pretty much everything, tackling work at home. I started my fitness journey back again. I needed some sanity of life during this pandemic. So I'm pretty much like staying focused, like grinding, making sure that Mom Noir takes off and stuff. So I'm doing a lot of stuff on the back end. And then my daughter decided to surprise me with her own up and coming business that she's doing at 10. So I just pretty much like running, nonstop, no stop, just running.
Literally running too, because I was just on your Instagram for the last few days, and you've been motivating me out here working out, doing the smoothies and the shakes and stuff. So it's good to see other moms who are keeping up with their fitness, because sometimes when you fall off, you can look and be like, "Whoop, I need to get back on it." So
we're not getting no younger. So
exactly. So can you just kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and your platform? Well, at first, I guess I'll kind of start. We connected, I believe, via Fairmount Lab via social media, and
Fairmount Lab.
Yeah, on Instagram. And when I saw your platform, initially, like, I respect any mom who is not just a mom and doing a great job, but also going after, her own dreams and visions and keeping it alive and keeping the creativity alive. And not only were you doing that, but you were doing that for like the mom community and the mom space. And immediately, we didn't know each other or anything, but we kind of had that like kind of cyber bond and that cyber support, for just another fellow Black mom. And personally, my platform, Social You Digital, it's all based on being transparent and sharing your story and being real, being authentic, and I saw all of those things, on your platform through your content. And so it was a no-brainer for me that, we've kind of been supporting each other. You've been supporting a lot of, reposting a lot of things. And so we just kind of began this connection. And so when I knew that I wanted to do this virtual Mommy Monday series, I was just like, Farah has to be the first guest. So
I'm very honored.
Thank you. And I'm honored to have you here. So I just want the people to kind of get to know you. Like, who are you? What is the Mom Noir platform? What do you do? What's going on?
Well, my name is Farah Benoit. You guys already know that. I am single mom to a 10-year-old amazing little spunky diva in the making of her own journey. Lord, she's a handful, but I love her. So I started the platform La Vie en Mom Noir. Literally, it's been a year, but something I wanted to do since I actually gave birth to my daughter. And pretty much what rang to me is a lot of my, female friends or family members who are moms, whether they're single moms or married or in a relationship. I always had one thing I always wanted to ask them, like, how do you do it? Like, where do you get your support? How do I see it? And I realized, like, in Boston, even though we're like a close-knit city, I never really saw a lot of stuff for mom of color. And I know the whole pandemic, it kind of stopped a lot of the things I wanted to do as far as like outside in the world, but we're able to do, like, we could do it. Hopefully the pandemic could be over where we could start doing the activities that I have, that I'm actually investing so moms can enjoy either a date night with girlfriends, stuff like that. So I did the platform more so we could have that support. Because I realized, like, there's a lot of moms, like, I'm fortunate to have an amazing support system. Like, my daughter has like great support system through godfathers, uncles, aunts, you name it. Like, our community is really big. But then I come into interaction in life with several females where they don't have that support system, or they're in another state and they don't have the support system. And I'm like, wow, like, I've gone through those steps where I've lived in other states, where I felt like I was alone, and I love people. So I'll generally just walk up, have a conversation with people, find out what their story is, like what makes them who they are.
Right.
And I want this platform. Like, and I feel like, especially with Boston, us being females, Black, living in America, even if you're from the Caribbean, we all have one thing that unites us. And depending on whatever our story is strength. We're going to do what it takes to make our children, our child, we provide for them and stuff. But what happens to us when we have that bubble and everything is so overwhelming? Who do we go to? Who do we reach out to? And I know a lot of females, if you was to ask a group of females, about 10 females, majority of them would say, well, I don't really trust other females. How do we break that cycle where we can be a community together and uplift each other, where we're not against each other as competition? You're an amazing mom. I'm an amazing mom. If that's something we have in common, why don't we come together and we actually do something together? Because we're raising the next future. Like, our kids don't belong to us, even though we have them temporarily. They're our next president, our next CEO. So in order for us to raise the next generation, you can't do it by yourself.
Right. Exactly. And I know, and that's just what your platform does. It really just, the message resonates that you're not alone in this. Like, there's a community of people, of women, of mothers that have gone before you who are in the same maybe the same phase, so there's always somebody that you can find. Have you found that other people have, I know you said that Boston, you feel like it's, more small, there's not a lot for, women of color, but with what you have created with your platform, do you feel like people are more open, more moms are open to it?
To be honest with you, even meeting you, I've also met several other moms through my platform that I didn't even know prior to making my page.
Yeah.
And though they're not, because everyone has their pace on what they want to bring forth as far as transparency. Like me, I'm an open book. Like I can tell my story because I live in my truth, and my truth is the only story that I can tell. So I know like my good, my bad, even what comes in the future, what's presented for me, what my journey is. So I know that the story I have to tell, there's another sister in our group that could be like, wow, like she went through that, I went through it too. So I never want my story to diminish another woman. I want it to uplift, like, okay, if she can survive what she survived or went through or whatever journey she's gone through, I can do it too. So I felt like with my mom page, even though like some aren't very vocal on making comments underneath my posts and stuff, I get a lot of DMs like, oh my God, I love that post that you did. And girl, were you in my room? Because I was just thinking the same thing. And I don't even go by follows anymore. Like whoever, like to me, I know because it's public, some people don't, maybe they're not courageous yet to hit the follow button. But I feel like when I get that DM or I'll get a call from my sister or a family member and they're like, oh my goodness, you really posted something and it resonated. Like I had a female friend not too long ago, a couple of days ago, I might have posted something about like, sometimes you gotta let them know and slide your resume on the table. And she's very conflicted at her job position that she has now. It's corporate America, pretty much predominantly a Caucasian company, and she's the minority. So she was on the fence on whether she wanted to be vocal about her position or not. And I think me posting that gave her, it was one of those like, oh my goodness, that's the sign I needed. And she spoke up for herself. So
yeah, a confidence booster. Sometimes all it takes is you to read something and be like, wow, she did it, so I can do it. Yep.
So now she's negotiating what her worth is. And to me, I feel like sometimes, like even when we do sister talk, we could give the best advice at the table, but then no one's hearing that advice on the outside. So my mom platform is to bring self-awareness, self-care, like you can be a mom and have all these other layers under your umbrella. Like it's not like, oh, you're a mom and you're only restricted. No, but you also need to take care of yourself too. You can't just keep giving and your cup runneth over and there's nothing filling it up. So I feel like that's another thing too, because as moms, we're told to be strong and you're going to be fine, but there's a burnout stage too in life. I've been burnout stage several times. And I just feel like sometimes some people they're automatically could get up and go. And then there's some people who need that extra, you're doing a good job. Let me push you. Let me help you. Let me initiate something so it could bring that fire back in you. And that was more so on what I want my page to be. Like I want someone to, if they're down one day, they could look at it and be like, you know what? I'm not the only one who feels like that. I know I could make it too.
Yeah, it definitely does that. It's an uplifter. It's an encourager for sure. So I know moms, if they're not courageous enough to, follow or engage yet, it's definitely something that's on the horizon. So fellow moms, definitely follow Mom Noir because the content is great. You keep us abreast of a lot of things that are going on with in pop culture and, in the world and relating it to like, the everyday Black woman and mother. So it's awesome. I wanted to kind of touch on what you were saying kind of all throughout this is that you're an open book and that you like telling your story and your journey. And I think that's why we get along well so much because we live in our truth. And, we're just not afraid to talk about it and talk about it openly. But there are so many, moms, right now who are struggling and may not know that there's like a community out there and may not know that there are other moms who have maybe felt, you know, the postpartum or the depression, you know. Can you kind of just talk about how important it is, like maybe a story or something that you have shared with your other fellow moms? Because in our off the cuff conversation, you told me that you were like the go-to mom. You've been in the game 10 years. You know, I know for myself, I'm like, kudos to you, because I can really get some free game from you because you've been in it for a long time. You've also, you know, raised your nephew as well, had a hand in that. So can you just talk about just your experience and how important it is to really tell your story?
To be honest with you, the advice I always give people, only you know what's best for you and your child. What works for me might not work for you. But one thing that, and I think I'm more grateful for my parents, because when they came to America, it was, I'm trying to learn English, I'm trying to learn the culture, but then also make sure that I don't lose the culture within my kids while I'm raising them. So one thing I know, like, that's very strong between me and my daughter, we're an open book. Like, when I tell you, like, that's my best friend, like, a lot of people say, well, you can't be best friend with your child. And I'm not talking about best friend like we have our girlfriends and we're kicking it. Like, I make it safe for my daughter to come to me and we can talk. There's no holds bar. Like, she lifts me up, I lift her up. She's like my yin to my yang. And I can honestly tell you, like, I want to say mommyhood changed me in a way where it's like I see the reflection of my heart when I see her. Like the way she walks, the way she talks. Now she's more empowered. She's moving into the world on her own. And it's, I don't know, like, how other mothers feel. And I know we all might feel similar. It's like when I see her, like, that just lights me up. If I was even down yesterday and something was wrong and I'm sad, I just look at her and I'm like, you know what? That's my motivation. I'm happy. When I say transparency, I believe everybody's story is their journey to their blueprint. No one can tell your story better than you can. I always tell people that. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, literally at 3 months, my daughter was born with a dairy intolerance, which we weren't aware at the time was a dairy intolerance. And I was very adamant on breastfeeding, which I successfully did for 2 years, going on a no dairy diet. But the journey before that was we was going to every hospital in New Jersey, to the point where no one would listen to me. I felt like I was going crazy. I was going mad. Doctors were telling me nothing. Everything's fine. She's fine. My mom's a nurse out in Boston. And she, like, literally, this was before sending pictures over the cell phone was popular. So I would send a whole bunch of pictures to my mom, like, oh my God, like, something's wrong with her. What is wrong with her? I remember sending a picture one night to my mom. My mom has a best friend that works in the ICU with babies and stuff. She tells my mom, I don't care how your daughter gets here. She needs to get to Boston yesterday. The God intervention in me books a ticket on an Amtrak. I pack one suitcase, make it to Boston, within 24 hours. My mom had already scheduled an appointment for my daughter to be seen at Children's Hospital, which I don't care what anybody says is the best hospital in the country.
It is.
As soon as my daughter gets to the hospital, they take one test. Now, mind you, in Jersey, they took no tests. We went to different doctors saying, oh, maybe you need to change this. She's a colicky baby. They took one test at Children's Hospital. Within the hour that we was in the hospital with her, they determined it was a dairy intolerance. The doctor's exact words were, had you bring your daughter in any longer than what you did, your daughter really would have had a colonoscopy bag. So I would have been changing a poop bag for the rest of her life. Her intestine was so inflamed from the doctors not telling me what was wrong that I literally, if I did not listen to that voice inside my heart and my mom saying, come now, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. So with that being said, in the midst of all of that, I had a C-section. So I never, like, literally, I never healed. It was back and forth to the hospital, back and forth. So I made the decision, which I'm originally from Massachusetts. So I made the decision. I'm not going back to Jersey. I'm going to stay in Massachusetts with my daughter. And she's thriving. You would have never known, like, she had a dairy intolerance or everything. Thank God for that. You know, I say my prayers all the time for that. Thank God. Yes, in the midst of all of that, I went through every crazy stage you possibly can have as a mom. I questioned myself. I questioned my faith at one point, even though I was still praying, having church people pray for me, my aunts, my uncles, my mom, my dad, my sisters, my brothers. There was a glimpse where I just lost faith. Like, why me? Why is this happening? And then it's something my mom always told me. If you prayed and you already put it in God's hands, there's no reason to question that. You pray about it, move on from it. And I could tell you, when I say testing as a parent, you go through so much emotion that I didn't know through this whole process of that I was dealing with my daughter, that I really hit rock bottom with postpartum. Like, when I say bad, to the point where I kind of lost my identity for a bit. I questioned everything and everyone. I went through the stages of being happy 1 second, mad 1 second, and then stuck, where I'm in a room, not moving, sitting there waiting for the next day to come. And then I honestly could tell you it was a few of my close girlfriends and my best friend who lives out in New York at the moment. They literally came together like a village and was like, no, you need to break out of this. You need to come out of this. You're too strong. Like, you're the one who pours into us. So how do we pour into someone who's the one that pours into us? And that was my wake-up call. Like, I ended up seeking therapy. And there's a lot of people, like, it's frowned upon. And I hear it all the time from some, like, African-American people, Black people like us, like, why are you going to therapy? Oh, you got to be crazy. You got to be psycho. Therapy is the best thing that you could ever do, especially in a time like this now. So I have a therapist who I love dearly. She's on call. I will call her, leave her a message, like, you need to pick up the phone. I got to speak to you. And I feel like getting my support system intact is very good. Now, there's a flip side to it, because I know my support system's good, but there's some people who don't have that support system and it's rocky for them. And to be honest with you, I would say hold on to faith and do seek therapy. Because I know there's introverts that don't like speaking out, or they don't know who to trust, and they've had bad experiences, whether it's friends or with family and stuff. I always say, like, if you have one, you're rich in your favor. Just that one where you can actually depend on and you could speak to. And I think that's the reason why I did my mom platform, because I see future wise on having contact where they can find therapists on my page, or I can have a therapy session where I get a therapist to come and, like, have these dialogues and stuff. It's needed. It's needed.
Yeah. And I think right now more than ever, just with anything, as you know, Black people and Black women, like, we just need that representation of, like, you know, like we said, in the Black community, it's kind of frowned upon, like going to therapy or seeking help, or just acknowledging that something is mentally ill, like, you know, that is bringing dis-ease to your life, you know? And so there are tools and, you know, people to help that. And I think that having a platform like yours, moms can be able to say, oh, wow, there's a resource. Oh, wow, here's another mom, Black mom, who has actually gone through it, you know, and sharing our stories that can actually encourage somebody else to actually go to therapy that they've been sitting on for years, you know, and they're just kind of complacent, sitting in the same mental space. And so just seeing and hearing somebody else that's done it and has gone before you is sometimes just that one support and nudge that you need to do it. I'm so glad that you're talking about, you know, mental health, because it is very, very important. And with all the moms that I've talked to, that low point, that question just about, like, what was your lowest point as a mom, that the resounding answer is, you know, I just went through this postpartum. I was, you know, very depressed, whether that be because of, you know, the relationship, just the wear and tear of new motherhood, or both. And for you specifically, I know that you talked about, you know, moving from New Jersey and with your daughter. Thank God for that discernment, and for your mom, you know, having that support system, and that you acted, you know, you use that motherly discernment just to kind of, you know, get your daughter right. So we are made from love mothers, because we do know. Can you just speak to maybe like just another low point where you just knew like, yo, I need something else. Like, yes, I need prayer. Yes, I need my faith and I'm leaning on my faith, but I also need to indulge in some tools that are right here on earth that are here to help us, that God has really sent to help us, Can you talk about that?
Well, I went through a stage in life where I think it's not really a specific time, but in more recent, I could say within the last 2 to 3 years, I went through a stage where it was a transitioning on finding myself. Like I'm a very vocal person, and like when we spoke before, I would tell you like I'm very assertive. I'm very sure of myself. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I know like once I say something, that's what it is. Like there's no maybe so no. Like I'm very sure of who I am and what I bring to the table. But I know, and within a couple of years, I could say like the last 2 or 3 years, I hit I don't even want to say a snag in the road, but I hit like literally like as if the car just stopped and there was no, like the car was not moving. Like everything in the car just literally just stopped and there's no movement. And I think that was my aha moment. Like, what are you doing with yourself? And I don't know if it's because I became comfortable. I was in a relationship where that didn't work out, which added a layer to it because it made me question myself as a person on how it played out. Yeah. I questioned everything about like, was my love too strong? What did I do? Did I do this? Did I do that? And it just made me have that question where now, if in hindsight now, since everything's moved past it, when I ask myself these questions now, it was never me. I was never the issue. Like I knew who I was. And sometimes in life, you hit a low point where you just start kind of like, I really wouldn't say opening the doors to people, but you tend to bring people in your life that had no business being in your life in the first place. So it takes you in a different journey in life where, okay, like how do I juggle this and how do I juggle that? I know one thing about me is that I love too hard. And when I love unconditionally. Like the skies could fall down and the fire could bloom and I'm still there. And that's one thing as I'm getting older and I'm getting more mature on who I am, that not everybody's entitled to that love. Right. Not everybody should be even reciprocating that love. I can love, but to what cost am I going to lose if I do that love? And I think that's the biggest challenge for me when I can say I hit my lowest point, because I can give so much that I know my cup is running empty, and honey, I'm using my emergency supply just to give, not realizing that emergency supply needs to stay. And then I think now more of the event, because my daughter's getting older, I look at the decisions I make out of the equation. And let's say my daughter was in that situation. What advice would I give my daughter if she hits that point? So now I'm walking that line where I need to practice what I'm preaching. So if I'm saying this, and this is what I'm saying, then it has to go across the board for my daughter. I can't do one thing and she's looking at me like, oh no, mommy, but you did that. So I think sometimes your lowest points aren't technically your lowest points. They're a reset to life. Because I can tell you 2 or 3 years ago, I would have never thought about, okay, let me start my mom page. I would have never thought about, let me be vocal. Let me tell people how I feel. Because I'm always, I wonder if I say this, am I going to hurt their feelings? I wonder if I really don't want to hurt their feelings. I love them too much. But then do you really love them if you keep quiet?
Exactly.
Are you willing to sacrifice your happiness when you know something's not right, and you rather, because sometimes getting a stroke is when you're mute. Like you hold all that anger, all that resentment, all that pain inside, but when you don't express it, it's a ticking time bomb. Eventually it will explode. So I think like my lowest points in my life literally became my reset button on, you're getting older. What are you doing? How are you moving? You know, what examples do you want to give? Like I have younger nieces, I have younger cousins, and you know, what example am I giving them as women? And they're not even moms yet. What example, how am I walking in my truth and allowing them to see what I want them to see.
So what kinds of things do you have a lot of kids around you. You're like the mama bear, the lovable mama bear. So what kinds of things do you do with them, activities or, affirmations or teachings that you do on a regular to kind of, lead by example and show them how they need to be women or just grow up in this world that we're living in today?
It's amazing that you said that. So with my daughter, so every Valentine's Day, I take my daughter out for Valentine's Day.
Nice.
I will buy flowers, cards, a little candy bag, and I deliver it to her at school. Nice. And it's crazy because when I was younger, my dad used to work at the Ritz. He retired from the Ritz-Carlton. Every birthday and every holiday, especially Valentine's Day, he would always take me, my mom, my sister out. Like nonstop. Like it wasn't a question, it was routine. He did it every year. For our birthday, he would give us like the best seat in the cafe. They would do the birthday songs and everything. And I feel some younger girls lack that. And I don't say lack it because it's not given to them. It's because either their mom was never shown reciprocation of love, so the mom doesn't know how to show that reciprocation of love to their kids. Right. Or the father, vice versa, however the family dynamic is. But I know with my daughter I want to say like the last 2 years, we do mirror affirmation.
Nice.
So we have these little heart post-its that we do. And in the morning, she'll either post one if she gets up before me, or if I get up before her, I'll do a post for her. And just pretty much telling you, you're a beautiful Black girl. I love you. This is how you need to be. This is where we are. And she reads it every morning. I didn't know that in the midst of me doing this, she actually keeps them. So she has a little box in her room where she'll take it, she'll put it in the box. And then if she's with her friends and stuff, she'll be like, look what my mom wrote me. I noticed that has contributed a lot to how she sees herself, because she did go through a period where she hated her hair. And she has really great hair, like amazing kinky hair. And she went through a period where she didn't like her hair. She's like, I either want my hair braided or straightened. And I noticed when I started doing these affirmation with her, you can't tell her nothing about her afro.
Exactly.
She wears it out and she's like, oh, I love my hair now. And I just feel like for us to pour into our kids in general, we have to pour into ourselves. I never knew how important that was. Like I would say, oh no, I'll love. But if you're giving love, but then you're not giving the time to love yourself, what love are you actually giving out?
Exactly. And it's so prevalent that, many mothers, many people were just giving. And I think as a new mother, even speaking for myself, you're thinking about this little person that you're bringing into the world, like, and they need everything, from the nourishment to the time to, rocking to sleep. And I think for me, it was, motherhood is an unknown territory. There's no manual to this. So there's no manual to this. It's like the experience, you have to go through the experience and learn for yourself what's best for you and your child. But for me, I was just like, he's going to need this, he's going to need that. It's just going to be a whole new, regime and routine for my life. And so automatically we're so nurturing at heart that it's like we kind of forget about ourselves. Not that we want to, but it just kind of naturally happens. But I kind of had that same kind of like awakening moment. In hindsight, I know it wasn't my lowest point, but it was the low points that needed to bring my mindset to what it is today. I just went through this kind of space of like, I was very, very ambitious to be about my creativity, be about like, my production and, hosting and, journalism and everything. And it just got to a point where it was just like everything was about, my little one. But I also found joy in just taking clips and video clips and, different things like that. And I found myself documenting his life and his precious moments. So I knew that I was keeping my passion alive, but that I was still, a part of me was like dying. You know what I mean? And I was just like, if I'm not filled up with what I'm doing, how am I going to give him the best, you know? And then another thing was just, you know, figuring out how, you know, childcare and things were going to work, since I'm, you know, so ambitious and want to do all these things and complete all these things. And I'm the kind of person where it's just like, oh, I'm still going to complete all these things that I set out to do, even before I was a mother. And it's even, the game is even on more now because I have somebody looking at me, you know? And so I really had to change my mindset. And it's like, I had to be in those moments where I didn't have any childcare. And, you know, maybe, you know, somebody had committed and I'm just like, oh, they can't do it anymore. And then so it creates this, not like desperation, but this innovation where you just got to create these on the spot alternatives to where you're going to make it work, you know? And I talk about it all the time, even with my business, like, no, the business doesn't have to be on hold or anything. Incorporate your babies into your business, you know? So Avery, like, he knows, like, you know, he comes to the studio with me. He's like my production assistant, you know? So it's not about really making excuses, because for a long time, I would say for the first 2 years, I was really making excuses like, oh, I don't really have, you know, anybody. And there just comes
a time. You made it. You use that excuse to not move forward.
There comes a time when you have to stop the pitying, you know what I mean? Even though it might not be right, or, you know, our mindset about it, or, you know, it may be valid, you know, that's how we feel, but you have to acknowledge those feelings and then create the life that's going to be best for you and your child. If I keep talking, like, I'm not changing my own life, and I'm not changing other people's lives, because I'm not doing what I need to do to walk in my purpose. You know what I mean? And so, and part of my purpose and part of my story was to keep going, you know, to show other women that it can be done, you know, it can be done despite, you know, adversities and trials. And so that's why I just get so much strength from other mothers that are doing the same things and walking their own dynamic paths. But mental health is a very, very big thing. And I think moms out the gate, expecting moms too, should really, you know, check in on their mental health and just surround themselves with other mothers who have done it before, to really remind them, like, you know, I was reading something like, you have to be around people who can remind you who you are, you know, and how great you are at your lowest points. I feel like it's even more so for the mother, you know, a new mother, especially a first time mother. It's even more so because there's so much isolation that can happen, especially if you don't know what's going on postpartum, because everything, all the emotions are new, you know, it's something that you've never gone through before. So,
and to yourself, you're thinking you're crazy. You're like, wait a minute, why do I feel like this? Like I told you at one point, I thought something was wrong. I was like, this is not normal. I'm like, am I losing? Like, you start doing the self-talk to yourself, and you sitting there like, something's not right.
Yeah.
Is everything okay? And that was one thing, like, why support system is so good, because my mom was the one that was like, oh, this is what it is. Because I never knew what it was. Even though I read it in the baby books and stuff like that. To me, I was like, oh, I read it. It's never going to happen to me. Just keep moving. Make sure I still take my prenatal vitamin, do what I need to do. But I'm telling you, when it hit me, that thing hit me hard. And I was just literally all over the place. And then you have no breathing time because you're still breastfeeding. You still got to make sure the baby's fine. And then the thing is, you're not realizing that your mood and your postpartum is projecting on the baby. Mm-hmm. They don't tell you that in prenatal classes 101. Like, your mood and how you feel and your whole aura, if it's off, the baby's whole aura is off. They don't tell you that in these classes. So I think, like, that's something, like, us as women need to know. I think that's also something as women we need to come in tune with and to check ourselves with it. And I think that's why I love the group of women that I'm surrounded by, because they have no problem telling me in the heartbeat, you gotta check yourself. And I love that. Like, I love the rawness. I don't like the whole let me tippy toe. No, if I'm wrong, call me out on it. Let me know, like, okay, I think you might need to see your doctor. I think you might need to see a therapist, or you might need a time out.
Or I think you can make a better decision, or I think you can do this better. Because sometimes we have people around us who is like, oh, you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great. And you you do need to know that you're great, but you also need to know, like, oh, you could use some improvement in this area, because that is how you get to your best self, you know? And if you're just complacent and around complacent people who won't tell you those things, it can be difficult, and you can be thinking that you're something that you're not.
Exactly.
So mental health is a big thing for mothers, expecting mothers, and just surrounding yourself with a good community, people who can really speak into your life and be that representation that can kind of go before you. I want to kind of switch over. Wow. Dang, like an hour and 40 minutes.
I know, girl.
I'm like, it's already at 4:45. All right. I kind of wanted to switch over into the candid conversation. We were just meeting on Zoom. What was that? Just a few weeks ago, right?
It was a few weeks ago.
We were meeting. This was when the news of George Floyd and the height of the protests were happening. And we wanted to meet anyway, but it so happened to happen around that time. And I'm a big believer in timing,
Yes.
Everything happens in the timing that is supposed to happen. And I don't think it was by accident that we actually really connected during that time, because it brought another conversation that we didn't even know we were going to have.
It's going to happen.
How we are, talking to our children, or what some stories are, that we can share with the audience today. What we think about what's going on, how our children are reacting to it, and what some approaches. Now, I just want to put it out there, I'm not an expert or anything in how you should talk to children. I'm not a child care expert or anything like that. I am just going off of, my own experiences. I have a 5-year-old. And I don't think that it's actually, clicked or registered, for him. He's still trying to understand the virus, I think that's clicked for him,
That's my daughter too.
Cool. So I think he's still at a young age, a young age to really grasp, because he also loves police cars and
my goodness, my daughter loves cops, and not after our incident, but
firemen and all the officials that are put in place to keep us safe. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, loving those positions. But when you're innocent, and you don't know what's really happening, it's a hard conversation to have. So me personally, I haven't, said, hey, this is what's going on, I just kind of, say, the history of, segregation. And everybody, even though your family loves you, not everybody in the world will look at you the same, because that's just the honest truth. And I do say that, and there is a way that you should just conduct yourself in general, but just as a safety and precaution, just being aware that there are other people in the world that don't love you as much as I do, or your dad does, or your family does, So I think that's the approach that I take. But you have a 10-year-old daughter. But I think that just for parents and moms in general, it's good for us to have these conversations, because my son is getting older, and I'm going to have those conversations with him. And so it's how have you gone about, having the racial conversation with your daughter, even before the height of all this has happened? But you can talk about currently too.
Well, before all this happened, so it's funny that you bring this up. So prior to me ever having kids, I seen this documentary that they did on 2020, but the documentary, honestly, I think it might have been older than me, where they had a black doll and a white doll.
Oh, yes.
They did a segment with, it was a trial segment with little kids, and they kept asking the little kids, which doll do you prefer? Now, this was an hour-long segment with this show. And I remember one kid in particular, a little Caucasian girl. She ended up choosing the white doll. And when the commentator asked her, why did you choose that doll? Her response was, because Black people are bad. Black people are mean. So me, I love all race. Right. I can't say I don't see color, because I do see color. Because if your color doesn't match mine, that's a different color that I see. So I hate when people say I don't see color. Yes, you do. Unless you are a cat that sees black and white, you see color. So when I hear people make that statement, I don't really think they're ignorant when they say it. It's just lack of education, because everybody's a different color, even different shades of brown, different shades of white. You see color.
Yeah, so, and even just like a cliche, I'm noticing, like, it's like, I don't see color. I don't see color.
No, you do.
And that sounds good, or people think that it sounds good, but you do.
You do. Black, I see color, I see race, I see ethnicity, I see if you're a male, I see if you're a female, I see if you're in transition or in between. I see all of that. So I was very adamant when I had a daughter. Like, growing up, my parents, they weren't really, being from Haiti, and I'm not saying their education level was different, but they have a different standard in Haiti coming to America that's different than when you're actually physically born in America. That I can say. So my parents never really, like, if you see my dad, very light skinned, looks very mulatto, like you would have thought he was of Spanish descent, and he's full blown Haitian on both sides. And my mom is the darker shade of being a Haitian. Right. So on the African American side, she's full blown Haitian, both mother and both father. And their kids are in the middle between both shades. So they never really spoke color in our household. Like, my mom loves everybody. My dad loves everybody, accent and all. They just love people. So it was never that restriction, like white people don't like you, and there's some people that's not going to like you because of your skin color. We were never raised like that in my household. Right. But I know going away to college, I took an African-American literature class, which made me find out more of my culture being Haitian. Now, mind you, I always walk around, I'm a proud Haitian, 100%. You can't tell me anything. But prior to college, I never knew my full history of Haiti until I went to college. Listen, they need to have them classes in the younger grades. So when I finished school, did all of that, I always said, if I have a daughter, I want her to fully know who she is. Her father is African American, full blown, not from the Caribbean. Me, Haitian, born in America. But one thing I always said, I wanted her to have the best of both worlds. I didn't want the Haitian descent part of her to be lost, and I still want her to culturally know the African American descent part of her father. Right. But I was very adamant when she was born, and whoever bring presents, do not give her Caucasian dolls. And the reason why I say that was because of that study that they did on 2020. Yeah. So literally, I would tell people, I would literally tell people, don't buy her a Caucasian doll. Or if I don't tell them that and they gave it to her as a gift, I would go and exchange it for an African American doll. Nothing wrong with the Caucasian doll, but I wanted her to see a reflection of herself. So for my profession now, I'm a property manager and I'm around the Dudley area. So with me being around the Dudley area, I ended up finding Frugal Books. That's right there in Dudley and Roxbury. When I say that's the best bookstore you could ever go to, if you need books for your kids, hit up Frugal Books. Seriously. And I'm not getting paid for this ad. No. So I was going to lunch one day. I went and bought a slice of pizza and an iced tea across Mario's across the street. And I'm like, I have time to kill. Oh, there's a bookstore. Let me go in there. I actually was looking for a particular book for myself. And when I walked in, I think it was Obama's documentary or something I went in there for that I really wanted, and I couldn't find it on Amazon or anything. So I'm like, let me go to the bookstore, because maybe if they don't have it, they can tell me where I can get it from. So I go in the bookstore, and when I tell you every book that you can possibly have for our kids was in that bookstore, I don't know why that bookstore is not promoted more in our community. Why we don't speak of it. It's like a little gem right there in Dudley Station. Maybe because of the location, some people might think, oh, I don't want to go there. But this bookstore, when I say, is amazing. Every parent that has a Black child, or if you're raising one, should go to that bookstore and order books for their kids from that store. So I literally started my daughters.
when we're back in the normal world, if that ever happens, because
they do online too. You could call them and they'll do online. Yes, they do.
Yeah,
so,
I know they did a lot of events as well too, having a lot of like Black authors and
yes, go there. Up and coming authors and everything. So literally, if you go in my daughter's room, she has a bookshelf full of Black books. People who look like her. And I think lately, because now she's at that age where she's getting older and she's at that coming into woman age, because they start young now, she's becoming more aware of what her skin color is, what her tone is, how she's supposed to carry herself, the way she's supposed to talk, not to close herself in because she might not look like the next person next to her. She goes to a school that's predominantly African American kids, despite the teachers that go to the school. And I love that about the school. I wish it was also like, I guess, more mixture, but I love that about the school because she doesn't feel like she can't speak for herself and stuff. So she speaks up more for herself, which she wasn't doing before. But I feel like with George Floyd's death, she found out through a TikTok video. And I guess they remade it and she ended up seeing it. And literally, I remember being in the kitchen and she runs into the kitchen and she's like, they made a TikTok video of his murder, like literally with the knee on the neck and everything. And not a dancing video.
Or informative. Like, what was
it wasn't really informative. I think it's like, because you could upload regular videos on TikTok. So it wasn't like a dancing video. They didn't remake it. Like, you literally can see, like, when she brought it to me in the kitchen, I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I think they killed this man. So I'm like, what are you talking about? So I didn't fully see the video yet. She brought it to me. When she brought it to me, I'm like, what are you talking about? So now I take the phone. I'm watching the video. 8 minutes and 46 seconds of the whole thing. I had to Google it, like, okay, did they really just kill this guy on social media? Like, we can't even say the news because it hit social media before it even hit the news. Like, did this guy really die?
Social media is our news.
we literally watched a murder on social media. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, we literally watched it on, when I Googled it, it was on Instagram. My daughter showed it to me first on TikTok. So I'm just like, yo, this is really crazy. So at that point, my daughter automatically says, like when I told you in the first Zoom call, I hate cops. And I'm like, excuse me? She's like, I hate cops. And I'm like, well, hate is a strong word. We don't use hate. So try to express your feelings a different way. She was like, I will never trust a police officer ever again. They're all bad. I don't care what color they are.
Wow.
And at that point, I'm already upset to what I watched. The first thing I said is, how is TikTok posting this? That's the first thing I said. Then it went into rage. Like, I literally just saw, I contributed to watching somebody die on social media. They didn't even censor it. Like, I literally seen him die. And then the other thing that came to mind is they're being recorded as police officers who's doing the murder. And not one time did they say, well, they're filming me. Let me stop what I'm doing.
Nope. It's like I gave them more ammunition, you know? That gave them more ammunition, like it was going to be seen. It was just so funny to me. And what's the scary part for me is that, you know, the guy who was kneeling on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, he was looking straight into the phone cameras and had his hand in his pocket, like very casually. And to me, it was just like, this is how much hate that I have. Like, he doesn't deserve to live. He doesn't deserve to live, you know? And that was the part for me where it's just like, how do you even explain that? How do you explain that? And for me, the root is just to really, you know, that's not something that I want to show my son or anything, really want to show any other fellow Black person, because it's just like, we've gone through enough trauma of what we see all the time, you know?
Because this was filmed, but there's other people who died that did not get filmed.
Exactly. And so what my thing is just like, there's not with everybody, but with a lot of people who are racist, there is a deep, deep, deep hatred that they can't even explain, you know? So it's hard for us to explain. And that's why they're able to do the things that they do. And so that's really my approach with talking to my son and children that I come into contact with, is that everybody doesn't love you. And you have to understand that.
It took me a couple of days. Like, I could tell you that day, if I told you I talked to her that day, I couldn't, because I was already trying to digest what I saw.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very passionate when it comes to like everything happening in the world, whatever country it is. Like, I'm so passionate about it. So to see something like that, I couldn't decipher how I was feeling without telling my daughter, I agree with you. I hate cops too. Even though I know that's what I felt in my heart, I couldn't tell her that, because my reflection on how I want you raised is, I don't want you hating police officers, because I know some police officers that I grew up with. Some are in my family that I love. And it's unfortunate that it took majority of some bad cops to represent some of these good cops that are out here. And then I look at it like a catch-22, because you're out now murdering people as a cop when you took an oath to protect and serve, and now you're honestly, selfishly putting your partners in an at-risk moment. It wasn't even just George Floyd. Look at the guy that died at the Wendy's.
Yep.
I forgot
Rashad Brooks.
That totally, like, to me, I was so disgusted when I saw that, because a lot of people, when you read up on breathalyzer testing, the only reason you take a breathalyzer test is if the person denied they were drinking and you, as a police officer, had intent or knew there's a possibility they was intoxicated.
Right. And they were actually driving, and he wasn't driving. He was parked because he was truthful about what was going on with him.
The fact that he opened his mouth and said, I did have something to drink tonight, there was no need to go back and forth to ask him to take a breathalyzer test, because you had a body camera which had audio. So even if you was to take him to court the following week or the following month or whenever the courthouse opens, you literally had proof already that he said he was intoxicated. Right then and then, your humanity should have kicked in. Like, okay, this guy's intoxicated. He just told me the next day is his birthday. He had a whole dialogue with you. He didn't resist. He let you check his pocket. And then all of a sudden, the guy's now dead.
Yeah.
It's now dead. And the thing that's crazy is, he was murdered right after the whole George Floyd thing. So with the heightened situation that's already going on, you now make yourself a target to be a murderer too. Did that even make sense?
It really doesn't. I think that we're all, just still processing all of this. And every day it's something new. I think the world, we have a big fight to fight with, breaking down, racism, but it's going to take everybody, and in our last conversation, and I know we're kind of at an hour right now, and so I want to kind of get into, what we were talking about, and kind of wrap up what we were talking about as far as, the virtual classes and just like knowing your rights. And I know in our last conversation, the thing that always comes up for me, because it resonated so terribly with me, well, in a good way, was, when they see us, Everdunez, when they see us. And my thing from that whole series was, I wanted, if my son was ever in that predicament, I would want him to know his rights. I would want to know the rights that I have as a parent, in order to teach him, like, what to say. And then I know you said, you would want to see like a law class or something, like a virtual law class. And that's something that I really, our children are at different genders, and they're at different age ranges right now, but there's still little Black queens and kings and queens that are growing up in this world, in the reality of this, systemic racism, blatant racism, and so I just want to, if you could talk a little bit briefly about like what you would want to see with that, like.
My major in college was political science, which has nothing to do with any of that, but I'm really into like law. I'm really into finding out what your actual state law is, because a lot of people don't know their state laws. Like, they know the bare minimum, what to kind of not get arrested for, but they don't know the in-depth of, honestly, there's a lot of laws that has not changed since slavery. It's just covered. Like a lot of people don't even realize that even in like our state house, that they actually have to pass a law when it comes to actually Black people having rights. In 2020, they're still passing the law. They don't talk about it on the news. They don't make it a big thing because they tell you, oh, it's a privilege that you have this. But why should it be a privilege for me when other people get it for free and you're not killing them? That's why, like, every time I hear, like, one of my cousins, she moved down south, love her to death. And I had to ask her why. You can visit that state. Why would you go live there? And I hear a lot of our color, oh, I'm moving down south. There's more people like me. There's, you know, I have the opportunity to grow. You do, but then at what point do you have to grow when the laws are not even made to protect you? You're living in a state that looks just like you, but the laws are not for you.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize that. Like, they get mad, like, even with this conversation with Donald Trump, how we have a blatant racist president right now. Like, the stuff that comes out of his mouth is pure hate. Like, when I say hate, like, he is not of mind, body, and sound. So for him to even be president, I kind of have to go on the defense when people are like, well, I blame Trump. No, because Trump's not the House.
Right.
There's not enough kente cloth that any of these governors, mayors, whoever you want to say, is wearing on at the House right now, sitting there with. What are you doing to change the law? Like, what laws have you implemented to change? It's funny, like, because even in recent, Sean King posted something on his page, not even just him, Breonna Taylor's mom. They passed the law for the no knock. So why isn't the police officers who killed her not arrested yet?
Right.
In order for you to kill the police, I mean, in order for you to arrest the police officers, you also got to arrest the judge who signed the no knock warrant. Because it started with him, so he facilitated it. So it's up the chain on who gets the arrest, not just that police officer. There's a whole line of people that caused this young lady's death.
Yeah, for sure. And I think these conversations are very, very vital, you know, all the time, but especially right now. And when we're talking about something as to what do we tell our kids? What are the tips and tools? What is vital for, you know, parents to know and for kids to know? It's really just like it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to be knowledgeable, you know, to get out of this on the other side. And so I would love to see, you know, we've started the conversation, you know, as to this is a conversation that's needed, but how do we do it with the best information? And I would love, you know, for a part 2 for this to, you know, have a police officer, have, you know, a lawyer, you know, have a politician even be a part of the conversation. So, you know, and even maybe a child therapist. No, how do we, you know, approach this conversation of the racial unrest that's going on right now? Because, you know, it starts with us, but we need the community to help, and we need everyone to
we can't tell our sons, like, watch out when you go out. Make sure you call us. Make sure you text us. We can't tell our daughters there's certain places you can't be, even though those are the norms. As parents, that's what we're supposed to tell our kids. But then we actually, if we lack the education in what laws or what to avoid, and I feel like even medical schools, there's medical schools out there that actually do these law classes and have these discussions with their students. And I feel like that's something that should be implemented in the school system we have now. Knowing what your rights are, knowing your rights as a child, because we could tell them till they're blue in their face, we don't want you to do that. And as a child, what are you going to ask your parents? But why, mommy? Why do that? So they have to be educated enough to know, like, if they go somewhere, because there's plenty of videos that I see where people are filming cops doing bad, and I hear a police officer say, no, you can't film me. And then all of a sudden they attempt to try to, like, not film.
But they do that.
So how are you not able to film? But then there are some states where you can't film a police officer.
Right.
So you need to know, like, in this state, especially the state you live in, what can you do to push the envelope? What laws protect you? And the only way we would know that is by educating our kids and educating ourselves in that.
Exactly. And what I love about you is that you're very vocal, but you're also putting your words into action, and you're putting that into your platform, Mom Noir, and through your creativity. And so I love that, and keep going. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Instagram on at mom_noir. I'm also on Facebook and stuff. And if you go on Instagram, there is a link tree where it'll give you all the pretty much the background. There's going to be a blog coming up soon. We're working with our podcast, which is What's Your Dosage? We did have one. We have one coming up soon on Soul Ties. And does that affect your future relationships and stuff? And we also, for August, since that's my birthday month, we will be revealing some Mom Noir merchandise. And I do want to collab, which I'm working on right now, with a nonprofit, especially with domestic violence. So any proceeds for these merchandise that you purchase, proceeds do go to a charity of our choice or your choice. If you do have a charity that you have in mind or whatever, you can just, add us, email us, let us know so we could partner up with them. But I want this to be big. I want like all mothers to join. And I know I have some moms that are not Black, so it's not just geared towards Black women. Right. I can only speak from a Black person's mind because I am African American.
Definitely. That's the thing. Make the disclaimer. It's just about.
It's all. So honestly, I have aunts. I have some people who are not even moms, dads that follow the page.
Right.
I do my dad shout out Mondays to empower our Black men who are fathers and who are active, breaking the stigma that Black men don't take care of their kids. We have to support them because they were kids at one point that we birthed. So but it's the platform's for all women, honestly. But if you're a woman pretty much birthing your business or birthing life or speaking life into kids that you either teach or you foster or you adopted, this is the platform you definitely want to be at.
For sure. And I concur with all of that. The platform is bomb, y'all. So y'all should definitely follow it. Can you spell it for them? I'll also tag it. This is going to be up on YouTube, and I will definitely, the replay will still be on the Social U page, and on Instagram, I will be putting some clips out. But do you just want to spell the Mom Noir for them again?
So it's at MOM_NOIR.
Nice.
On Instagram.
Yes. Well, Farah, it's been lovely. We are going to keep the conversation going. I thank you so very much for being so dope, being my first guest on Mommy Monday.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I look forward to having you on again sometime throughout the summer. So I look forward.
We just started, girl. We just started.
We are just starting. I'm so glad to have met you, and I love what you're doing. And so, we're just gonna wrap it up. And next week, I will see you guys back here on the Facebook page, also YouTube, talking everything motherhood and everything else in between. And we're just gonna thrive together. All right.
I'll be tuning in next week.
All right.
Later, darling.
Later.